and you can subscribe to our email list here. So you don't have to talk to a volunteer. You can add yourself to the email list whenever you like. Okay, so alhamdulillah, as we were sharing some updates last night on our fundraising campaign, really we're very happy, alhamdulillah, in the last 6 months we've really been able to open the center back up, and as we're starting to return to some normalcy in this post-COVID environment. We've had a lot of wonderful programs that we've done, just this year in the last 4 months, beginning with Fatimiyya, and also many beautiful programs during the month of Rajab and Sha'ban. And also I'd like to call out another event here, really just as an announcement to everyone. This Women's Night, the Nisa Night, is something that was organized by a community member. It wasn't something that the board specifically had planned, but I wanted to highlight it as an event that someone from the community sort of came and said, hey, we would really like to make this happen. And we enabled that, and we supported them to be able to have a program here for the sisters that evening. So I wanted to highlight that just as an announcement for all of the community here, is that this center is yours. This center is the community's. We welcome people to step forward if you have ideas of programming or ideas that you would like to see, that you would like to do. We welcome that. Please approach any of the volunteers here. And I think specifically for our younger brothers and sisters in their 20s, late teens or whatever, we're really looking to you all to take some initiative and wanting to organizing programs or activities, or even for parents. Myself, I look at my progression in volunteering and serving the community. If someone comes to me and say, Brother Ibrahim, we should do a program about this, I'm gonna look at them and be like, great, how about you organize it? Like, I'm not, we're all taking on a lot of, different responsibilities. And, really, I think here at Yaseen, we really welcome people to, that want to step forward and get involved. And, we will provide you with budget, the space, coordinate. I think you'll find that we're pretty easygoing, easy to work with, and you won't find a whole lot of red tape here, inshallah. Another program that I wanted to highlight is actually the flyer down here in the lower left-hand corner. Inshallah, coming up in June, we have a community camp, the Kurama community camp, which we're organizing in collaboration with Masjid al-Rasul, Masjid al-Nabi, and also City of Knowledge. MashaAllah, we last had this camp back in 2019, pre-COVID. It was a wonderful event, wonderful opportunity. If you come here to the registration page, you see some great pictures. Highly, it's going to be happening June 10th. I encourage you to register your families, participate. It's a great time. And one other note, for anyone that is worried about it, prices for these camps, it's not cheap. So for an example, I have a family of 5. To go for the weekend for a family of 5, it's about $700. So it's not a small amount of money, but it's a great investment, for you to go as a, as a family. What's the other note I was going to say? Yes, but the other note I wanted to say is we actually have here on the registration page, if you please don't let money prevent you from coming. We actually have had a community member step forward and tell the organizing committee of the camp that hey, if there are any families that really want to go but money is a concern, then please just let me know and I will help sponsor them. So please don't let the money. We want your families there. We want your children there. There's going to be activities for like I said, for younger children, teenagers, adults alike. And mashallah, the planning committee is got some really great stuff in mind. So yeah, please register. Yeah, you sort of go down here and sort of indicate. Oh yeah, here it is. If the cost, is too much. Prices have gone up. Just like 15% in the last 3 years from what the camp was charging us 3 years ago. So anyway, just wanted to highlight that. And then now let's jump back in to another thing that's really wonderful that happens here at Yaseen in this building is our weekend school, Wali Al-Asr Academy, happening Sundays. We're finishing up the year in the next 3 weeks, but it's really been a wonderful year. We've been one of the few organizations that's been able to have an in-person weekend Islamic school for the kids here. Inshallah, if, you can subscribe on our website, submit an application for next year. We'll be starting up again in August. But when you support Yaseen and help invest in the space here, you're investing in this program and in the school for the young children. So as a quick summary, those of you who were here yesterday, I showed this slide. The story, of course, here for Yaseen is that, during the pandemic, alhamdulillah, the community really supported us and were able to, help us maintain the building even though it was shut down. And we pretty much netted out even with our expenses and the donations. In 2021, we had a lot of major construction costs here, which, did the renovations that we're all enjoying here. And so, that over $150,000 worth of work was done to finish the building. And so, we spent a lot of the money that the community had, of course, given us for the building, and sort of had a net, loss there of 113. And so far, to date, the community has continued to support Yaseen. I updated the expenses from what they were yesterday because there were some additional programming costs that I forgotten to include. So, we're a little bit, in the red for, expenses and donations so far this year. This is before the fundraising that we started here in Ramadan. So yeah, this is just a little breakdown. I can share if anyone has any questions about specifically, what's in facilities, operations, programming, etc. You can definitely talk to me afterwards, and I can share this deck with you. But the story here is, of course, the yellow on the left-hand side, which is our programming, has grown this year, and that's, of course, we want to continue to grow through 2022. Is to spend the money, primarily, the money that's donated here gets spent on the programming and on the facilities on this building here that we're all sitting in and enjoying. So this has also been updated since yesterday. As I mentioned, alhamdulillah, we have 22 individuals who donate on a monthly recurring basis that provide about $1,600, in revenue or in donations to the organization. We are right now have raised close to $25,000. All of the Ramadan meals that you guys have provided thus far, or that have been served thus far, have been sponsored by individuals. And the remaining amount we're hoping to get to 52 before the end of the month. That's about 40,000, which will cover about 6 months of our expenses. We want to get as close to that as possible. And the other 12K is just the iftar for the entire month, this month. So what I'm really grateful, we're all really grateful to the generosity of the community. As I put here, in addition to the dollar amount, to me what really counts is not only the amount, but the number of people that actually donate. So you don't think that your donation is too small. Inshallah, may Allah reward everyone that is able to help. You can scan the QR code that's right here on the screen. They're also on the walls. I encourage everyone to please donate whatever you can within your capacity, so that we can hopefully, I'd like to see that number, as far as the number of donors, inshallah, reach over 100 before the end of the month if possible, inshallah. That's all. If anyone, and so one other thing I meant to share as far as programming. Oh, geez, what's going on here? One other thing, actually, before I introduce of course, our speaker, dear Said Abbas. This page here, our link tree, this is also in the bio on our Instagram page. This shares some of the most important short links. It's very mobile friendly to get to the main things that we have going on right now. And so you'll see the camp registration here. But something else I just wanted to point out in case people missed it. This isn't on the website yet, but we're going to get a link there soon. Is actually, dear Sayyid Abbas Razavian, if you would ever like to schedule a meeting or consultation with him to discuss, get any advice on any matters, you can go to this link here and, and schedule a meeting with him. Right now virtual, but we can also make arrangements if you need, you can contact him through this if you need it to be in person. And this is a service that we definitely want to make the community members aware of, take advantage of Sayyid Abbas's time, whenever you need it. Okay, I think that's it. Apologize, it's a bit rushed tonight. There's a lot going on, but let's get to the more important. Yes, I'll be around a little bit afterwards if anyone has questions. But I think that's it. Let me turn this off. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjan farajahum. Okay. Okay, can we get the lights on now? Okay, great. All right. So, without further ado, without any more delay, let us please welcome dear Sayyid Abbas Razavian with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. Thank you. Tonight is the first night that Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, Lady Zainab, Kulthum, their first night without their father, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. And for us, he is our father. He is buried next to Prophet Nuh, which is the father of all of us, and Prophet Adam alayhi salam. These three fathers of us are buried together, and this is the first night. So we're talking about life skills, and one of the skills that we need to have is how to deal with the loss of a loved one. Because Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein alayhi salam are now, it is very tough for them. It is a difficult time for them 1400 years ago, but they had the strength, they had the iman to continue their life. Some of us might ask, why do you talk about this topic? This doesn't happen to everyone. Actually, it is a reality. Either if, unfortunately, this is how life is. If God does not take us away earlier, He gives us a long life, then we will see others that we loved pass away. Many of those that are older say this sentence, that the first half of life is saying hi to everyone and salam to everyone and getting to know people. Then the second part of life is saying goodbye to everybody. If you have a long life, this is what happens. So this is a reality, and we have to be able to have the skill, because what can happen if a person cannot cope with loss? Look at what the psychologists say. Sometimes they get very angry. Sometimes they feel guilty. They say, I wish, for example, I would have taken them to the hospital earlier. I wish I would have taken them to see more doctors. There's a sense of guilt. There's a sense of anger. There's a sense of grief that they cannot continue their lives. So one of the important life lessons for us is how to deal with loss. We talked about other life skills. We said how to be happy. I didn't only talk about, negative things. I also talked about positive. Don't tell me I'm the negative sheikh. I also talked about positive, but you weren't there with the positive things. How to become happy. We talked about that. How to increase your happiness. How to increase your joy. How to help ourselves in decision making. We talked about that. One of the speeches was decision making. How to take advantage of our youth. And how to worship God. Tonight we're going to talk about this topic, how to deal with the pain of the loss of a loved one. There was a group of people, and this hadith is in Al-Kafi. They were confused. Why is there death? They were complaining. Why is there death? When COVID struck us, people were wondering, what's going on? Why is God killing everybody? And you see how many people died. One of the aspects of death, especially for us as Muslims, as believers in God, is that everything that God does has a hikmah, does it not? Does He ever do something that doesn't have wisdom? No, everything He does has wisdom. So a group of people asked their own prophet this. They said that make dua that we never have death anymore. Get rid of death. This is an Al-Kafi. So the prophet made dua. And people started to become older and older. It worked. The dua worked. And people became older and older and older. So they were taking care of their parents. Then they were taking care of their grandparents and mother. And then their grandparents and grandparents. And they were just taking care of so many people that they didn't have time for themselves anymore. I assume they're playing bingo with them, all the time or something. I don't know. So finally, they got tired. And they got tired of the elders, unfortunately. This is the reality. Because there are so many old people, and the homes were too small now. Everyone was in a tight home, and they couldn't do any work. Just taking and trying to feed, because when you're older, you can't do. So then they said, oh, prophet, make dua, not to get rid of them, but make dua how life, happened, how life used to be. And in this, you understand the natural cause that Allah has for us. There's purpose. There's purpose in this. But obviously for us, we're going to talk about this. Death doesn't equate to annihilation. Death is not, God is not annihilating anybody. It's just a transfer of one form of life into a better form of life. One of the very interesting things that Ayatollah Bahjat would say is when people, the Malakul Maut comes, Israel comes. First of all, he would say he was very handsome. I don't know if that's from narrations or how he got it. He said he was handsome. Second of all, he said that there is this ladha and joy in death that people in general have. That yes, you have the punishments of death, you have the tough time of death, but also there is a ladha and joy of going from this temporal world to the permanent world. From something we deem as life, if it's not real life, to something that is absolute and true life for everybody. Interesting, Ayatollah Bahjat was saying this is for everyone. So when you look at the hadith and you look at the recommendations, What can we say? Because death truly hurts us. From Qural al-Hikam, from Imam Ali alayhi salam has, ثلاث يهدن القوى. Three things ruin our power. You're very powerful, but if these three things happen, you become powerless. One is faqdul ahibba, missing and the loss of your beloved. It makes someone weak. It crushes them. So we need to learn this life skill in order to not be crushed. وَالْفَقْرْ فِي الْغُرْبَةِ. I don't know if this has happened to anyone. You're in a strange place, nobody knows you, and you don't have money. You don't have money. Poverty. You know, one of the immigrants was saying, he said he came to the U.S., and he said that I understood this thing, man li ghayruk, that, you know, we say in the dua, I don't have, who do I have besides you, God? He says, I understood this when I came to the U.S. He says, because whenever I needed money, nobody would help me here. I was an immigrant. And I understood man li ghayruk here in the U.S. Because he said, if I was in my home country, he had so many families, so many friends, neighbors, they'd all chip in. He says, my neighbor, if I ask him for $20, you're saying he wouldn't give it to me, for example. So the second that crushes is poverty, when you're estranged. You don't have anybody. And the third is dawamu shidda. When bala happens, you know, something that you don't like happens to you, but it's continuous. It doesn't reside. So let's think about what can we think of, how can we deal with loss? I'm sure some of us, we had friends or ourselves. You know, what was beneficial to learn, enabled for someone to become stronger? One is that a logical analysis of what happens. To think about in reality that, first of all, you know, there's stages. People at the beginning, psychologists say at the beginning, when death happens to someone, the first step is shock and disbelief. They don't believe it. Because a lot of times death just happens, even if the person's sick, they still don't believe. This might take up to weeks. And they say, no, I can't believe they have passed away. The second stage is preoccupation with the memory. They're always preoccupied, and this lasts for months and more at the beginning, that they're living, you know, with the memories of their beloved. And the last is finally when they are putting these things aside, they have resolution. They want to come and live their lives again. So the first step is this, to realize this is a harsh reality of life. If somebody passes away that we love, we understand that this is going to happen. Nobody is going to live here forever. You understand that this life is darul bil bala mahfufa. This world has bala in it. A lot of times we have days that are for us, and there are days against us, as Imam Ali alayhi salam says in hadith. Those days that are for you, don't get intoxicated. You know, don't be able to not control yourselves. Those days that are for you, use that capital, that resource that you have in the right manner. And those days that are alayk, those days that are against you, be patient. Don't have grief. So the first step is to realize the reality of life. Realize that we're here temporarily. And unfortunately, because we live here so long and Allah has given us a long life in this world, we think we're going to be here forever. We plan as if we're going to live here forever, and we don't even like to talk about that sometimes. One of the qualities of the believers is that they should actually love death. Not that they don't cherish life, but for us, death means the meeting of God, liqa Allah. Isn't that the meaning of death? For us, the meaning of death is that the barriers are removed and we see realities. For us, one of the first people that comes to us is Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And we have in the tradition that he comes to us and says, Ana Ali ibn Abi Talib alladhi kunta tuhib. I am that same Ali that you used to love. I am here now. You know, one of the poets said that وَمَنْ يَمُتْ يَرَنِي, whoever dies will see me, Imam Ali says. He says, I wish then every day I would die 1,000 deaths so that every day I can see Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. He said that tonight, because we don't have a'mal, I can speak till 12 to 1 o'clock, if that's okay for you. We'll talk about death until 1, 2, if that's okay with. It's okay, Justin? Okay. Inshallah, you're of the sabirin, inshallah. So, because you're listening again, when you listen, I make it short. So, we'll see, inshallah, what happens. So, that's what we said for death. It's the way that you view the reality of insan is that our essence is our spirit, and God does not destroy our spirit. Our body can be sick, our body can be even cut into pieces, but nothing happens to our soul, right? Our soul is going to always last. Our soul is always going to be here. So there's no annihilation. There's no even step of annihilation. You know, as the Salafists and the Wahhabis say that there's a type of annihilation and then there's creation again. We don't believe in that. We say that all these souls, all these people that depart, they have a connection to this world still. Especially the more important that person is, the higher their position in life and wujud is, they have more tasarruf and command over this world. That's why in salat we say, Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi. We say salam to him. We tell the Salafists this, that why do you then say salam to the Prophet of Islam? If there's annihilation, if you believe in annihilation. Because they say you can do tawassul, you can beseech when the Prophet's alive. When he's dead, you can't do it anymore. We say, what is your proof for that? Why do you say salam to them? We don't believe in annihilation of the soul. So for us, it's just a transfer. But it's hard for those that love and those memories that we have. And we said, because they're going to be sometimes just too much grief, too much anger, too much guilt. What can we tell them? What can we tell such people? Another solution, and this is very important, you see in Islam, that family members, friends, the community comes. And that has a big effect on that person. Because when people are alone, they're very capable of keeping their feelings inside. Actually, sometimes they would come to the imam, some of the companions or people, they would lose their sons. And they would come to them, and the imam would tell them to shed your tears for you to become calm. Shed your tears, cry, that's good. For them to cry, bring out their feelings. For other people, to visit them. When somebody passes away, one of the first things you see, family members come, and their friends come, their neighbors come. The community comes for their salat. They come for their masjid, their majlis, for example. And this has a huge effect for that person. They know they are not alone. And they console them. You don't have to be, a psychologist to talk to somebody. You just talk to them about their feelings, what happened. You're with them. You don't leave them alone. A lot of times when you leave that person alone, it becomes dangerous. They're always outside. You take them places. They forget. The second thing is it needs time. There needs time for someone to heal. You can't expect the first day for that person to everything normal, shows up at work and making jokes. So no. Just like if somebody has surgery and they open up the body and it takes a while for that surgery. Sometimes it takes months. Sometimes it might even take years for them to properly heal. The heart are the same way. When they have that faqa, when they have that calamity, allow time to pass, but that first 40 days, that first time period is going to be very hard. That is when the community should come, and even has in some of the traditions, to cook for them and bring food for them for 3 days. Cook for them and bring food for them. And this is a natural emotion. We don't have hadith to say not to cry, for example, from what I believe, from my research. Yes, to cry in a way that you're complaining to the people, yes. Even complaining to God, we have ashku. We have, in Dua Iftitah, we say nashku, for example. We complain to you about faqdun nabi, our prophet is not here, or the ghaybat of the wali that Imam Zaman alayhi salam is in occultation. We have that. We complain to God is fine. Or you have, for example, Prophet Yaqub complaining in the Quran about his son not being there. He says, ashku, for example, in the Quran. I complain. Complaining to God is fine, not complaining to the people. So what other things? We said that give it time, give consultation, allow people to be there, change the way you look at life. You know, another thing is reward. You tell that person this, that, you know, there's a lot of brother or sister, there's a lot of reward in what is happening to you. The higher the reward, the more patient that person will become. When a person, I think it was Ibn Abi Ya'fur, comes to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, ali Muhammad wa'ajjal farajahum, and complains about his pains and his sickness. The Imam mentions to him that if you have, basically, in this hadith, the Imam mentions to him that if you have patience, there's so much reward that you wish you were cut with scissors in this world. You wish you were cut with scissors. You have a little bit of pain. If you know how much reward there is in pain and musibah, then obviously you would wish, you know, more would happen. But not as if we do dua for that. In the hadith we say, do not do dua for sabr, do dua for afiyah. But if we knew the genuine reward that God is giving us, is taking away this person, but instead is giving us something in return. That is how the rahmat and mercy of Allah is. Whenever Allah takes away something from us or from you, He gives you something in its place. So therefore, you look at the reward and you see that actually the most people that were punished, not punished, the worst people that had bala and calamities were the prophets, the believers, like rain that comes upon them. And you see why? Because it is conditioning them. It is making them stronger, making them closer to God. Because in reality, you know, after we die, all of us are going to die. You're going to come and think about this life and you say, how fast did it pass away? You think that Prophet Nuh lived 2,500 years, that it was a lot of time for him? When the angel of death came to him, and Prophet Nuh requested that the angel of death take his soul from in the shade, not in the sun, and he took one step from the shade to the sun, from the sun to the shade, and pondered about his long life, 2,500 years. This is as if I just took this step from the sun to the shade. That was how my life, how fast it passed by. Look at Shahr Ramadan, how fast it has been passing by. Pretty soon, maybe in a few days, Saudi Arabia will say it's Eid already. They'll see Saturn or something instead. Pretty soon, Eid is coming. And you see time is passing, or you look at your own lives. And even if a person has all that punishment and loss, at the end they think of their life. You know, Prophet Nuh had a very difficult life. It's not as if he had a very good life. He would teach people for 300 years and say, I give up. I cannot do it anymore. They don't listen to me. 300 years. 12,000 angels would come to him and say, have patience. Again, teach, preach to them. Another, again, okay, I'll start. 300 years, again, he would teach to them. Again, they would tell each generation, because Nuh would live so long, Prophet Nuh, that they would tell each generation, be careful of that crazy person. Whatever you do, they would give it in their will to their children. Be careful. Whatever you do, be careful of this crazy person. Na'udhu billah. So he had a rough life. After the end, after he built that ark, a huge ark, about only 80 people boarded it. In the hadith we have about 80 people. He had a difficult life. How hard it is it for somebody to think, na'udhu billah, that you're crazy, you're people, after he already even lived 800 years before he became a prophet, around 850 years. And they trusted him, they loved him. But you know, the problem they had with him was right when he says, I have instructions for you, do not do this, do this. They didn't like that. You know, people in general, they like if you're religious, if you're trustworthy, they like all that things, you know, prophets. But the main problem they had and the struggle the prophets had was with rububiyyat. They're telling that Allah has a plan for you, but you should change your life. They didn't like that. So Prophet Nuh, the same way, he lost his son. In the same way, did he not lose his son? His son was drowned, his wife was drowned. But the same way, he says, this life, it passed. And we in the same way, even if we are whipped every day and we are punished every day, in the hereafter we'll say, wow, that was nothing. Now I have an eternity in front of me. Isn't Shahr Ramadan about thinking about ourselves, about reflection and tafakkur? Isn't one of the most important du'as in Laylatul Qadr, Dua al-Josh al-Kabir, where you say, Al-Ghawth, Al-Ghawth, Khalisna min al-Nari ya Rab? Save me from the hellfire. That is the real, existential threat for us. Is this, but life in this world, yes, these things will pass, and allow time for it to heal you, inshallah, to heal us. Let's recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So we talk about natural things, logical things, thinking about the purpose of life, thinking about the nature of life, thinking about, bringing out your emotions, crying. These are good things. Consulting people, not being alone. These are very, very helpful things. Thinking of the reward of Allah is giving you much reward for this. But, I was looking at this in different books, and still that answer that maybe somebody really needs and can cause them to be very strong like the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, I still didn't necessarily see it there. There needs to be something else. There needs to be a final answer. And because when you look at the lives of Imam Ali alayhi salam, for example, the patience of Ali ibn Abi Talib, you see him as a mountain of patience he had. Just one of the worst bala that happened to Imam Ali was that he was separated from the Prophet of Islam. The Imam said this is the worst bala ever, that the Prophet left. And imagine, it's a bala for everyone. It's a calamity for everyone, but it's more for Ali alayhi salam because he was raised by the Prophet. The Prophet was his father. The Prophet was his teacher. At the age of 5, he was adopted by the Prophet. He was always with him and loving him and understanding. He was so close, and always when you look at this verse in the Quran, you always get amazed that he is the soul of the Prophet in Quran. When they asked Ali ibn Musa Rida, Ma'mun asked him, which verse in the Quran is the highest position of Ali ibn Abi Talib in the Quran? It is Mubahila, that the Prophet of Islam and Imam Ali came in one category, Anfusana wa Anfusakum. Bring yourselves. Ali became the nafs and the soul of the Prophet. So how hard is it for the nafs to be separate from itself? So this was one of the bala of Ali. Then the other bala, the daughter of the Holy Prophet, the bala that happened to him himself, the wars that he had. So you see, what caused Ali alayhi salam to have so much patience? What caused him to be a champion of patience? Brothers and sisters, this is a note that always keep Ali alayhi salam in front of you as you could say, a peak. The peak of perfection, peak of closeness to God. We might not reach Ali alayhi salam, but it's important that you're facing and you're walking towards that peak. You're walking the same path as Ali alayhi salam. We might be in different parts if you've gone to a hike. There's always different, you're at the beginning, the middle. There's people here with different stages. But when you see the peak as Ali alayhi salam, the most important thing is to always be towards Ali alayhi salam. Always follow the path of Imam Ali. A person comes to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, we're talking about the final way to deal with death. A person comes to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam wanting knowledge. Unwan Basri. A person at the age of around 94, an old person. You ask old people, they still study? Yes. Old people should still study. It doesn't matter. Sometimes you think when you graduate, a lot of times from university or school, you just sell your books, you just put them away. You don't have anything to do with knowledge. But yes, like in Islam, always they're studying, especially Islamic knowledge. He comes and wants to be a student of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, the best teacher. But Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and you've probably heard of this hadith, read it, he doesn't allow him to be a student. Don't think every time that you want something that it has to happen your way. There are time periods where even dua might not be answered. Allah might, God forbid, not want to hear us because of our station, our status, because of what we have done to ourselves. There are times people can become, not you, people can become so evil that God really does not want to hear them. because they're of the ashqa al-ashqiya. So he was comparing Imam Sadiq with other fuqaha of Medina, and Imam Sadiq didn't want to teach him. So he goes and does 2 units of salat and asks and implores God to allow the heart of Ja'far ibn Muhammad to change, to soften towards me. So finally Imam Sadiq alayhi salam teaches him. Alhamdulillah, he did ask, or else we wouldn't have this hadith, and I wouldn't be able to say this tonight, because he asked. We got this knowledge from Imam Sadiq. Because people ask the Imams, we have knowledge. If they didn't ask, they would not share their knowledge too. And this is just things that they asked. There's so much more knowledge that they had that wasn't shared because people were not ready for it, or people didn't ask for it. Because the Imam is the Kaaba. You have to go towards the Kaaba. You have to be ready. Then the Imam will give you his knowledge. So the Imam instructed him this, as we have in this beautiful hadith. The Imam instructed him, قال عليه السلام يا أبا عبد الله. He talked to him about knowledge. And he says, Ya Abu Abdullah, ليس العلم بتعلم. The first thing that Imam Sadiq teaches him, knowledge is not by learning. What? Knowledge is not by learning. I thought that's how you learn knowledge. You learn, you study, you take notes, you memorize, you teach. But he says the first thing, don't think this knowledge I'm going to give you is knowledge of just conventional knowledge. Knowledge is not by ta'allum. إِنَّمَا هُوَ نُورٌ يَغَأُ فِي قَلْبِ مَنْ يُرِيدُ اللَّهِ. This is a light. True knowledge is a light that Allah places in you. Someone can have a lot of book knowledge, but he might not have that true knowledge. Knowledge is a light that Allah gives to you. You want knowledge? Remember, lesson 1. The knowledge of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is not just book knowledge. It is divine knowledge that Allah will place in your heart. فَإِنْ أَرَدْتَ الْعِلْمِ فَاطْلُبْ أَوَّلًا فِي نَفْسِكَ حَقِيقَةَ الْعُبُودِيَّةِ. If you want knowledge, be an abd first. Be a slave of God first. Worship God first. Then you will get true knowledge. So these are things for us, but this is not, what I'm talking about is here. Then he talks about what is this ubudiyyat, and this is the answer for us, and we're going to be making it a little bit shorter. 3 things Imam Sadiq alayhi salam teaches him about ubudiyyat, about servitude, being a slave of God. That these 3 things, when you think about it, this will solve and make life very, very easy for us and very purposeful for us. And that no matter not only a loss, but anything that happens that is difficult to us, you're going to know the purpose of it. And it's going to make you stronger. Not that you're going to pray for dua, but you're going to understand it, and you're going to be able to use that negative in your mind, something that is you think is a niqmah, something that you think it is something bad, but in reality you say, ajab, this was a ni'mah. In a different way, al-taf al-khafiyya, this is in a way, it is a lutf of God. I didn't even know. There's a loss of my loved one, but I have changed so much. It has made me such a greater person. I have continued my journey in life completely different. The first way is this, that you learn about ubudiyyat and being an abd of Allah. أن لا يرى العبد لنفسه فيما خوله الله ملكا. That the abd does not see himself as having any type of ownership. That's the first thing of abd. Abd means you're owned. Abd doesn't mean whatever exists is your master's. Whatever is here belongs to God. Can anybody say like this belongs to the center even, or I brought these forks and spoons that they're putting in the trash on accident? I brought these, they belong to me. It belongs to Allah. Really, in reality, it belongs to Allah. The Tullab, they used to write in their books, this is mine. You write your name because it doesn't get lost. But they say, what can I say? In reality, this belongs to Allah too. Just a reminder. Everything belongs to Allah. Our car belongs to God. Our home belongs to God. Our beloved ones, our loved ones belong to God. Inna lillah. We belong to God. So the first step in ubudiyyat is that, first of all, that wasn't even yours. Why are you crying? That's not yours. It belongs to God. It's not yours. You get upset when something belongs to you and it is your loss. You really don't get upset too much when it's somebody else's. If somebody else's car was stolen tonight, for example, so brother, what happened? You know, so I feel sorry, but you wouldn't get as mad as it is in your own car. You would be then, you would, yeah. He says you have insurance, so you don't get upset no matter what. So say salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wajib. Then your insurance goes up. That's the problem in this country. It is a bala no matter what. So the first thing is you don't see yourself as a true abd. You don't see yourself owning anything. It's hard. It's, as I said, I don't think I'm an abd myself. I'm an abd of the dunya. But if someone is an abd of God, he realizes and becomes one of the strongest of people because everything is now God's. And he says this is the secret of Ali alayhi salam. This is the secret of the imams, that everything they had, it belongs to him, and they trust them therefore. You know, if you have, you know, a loss of anybody, you'd say, this is yours. I trust you with him. Who better than God to trust them with? Take care of him, God. It's yours. Second is this. وَلَا يُدَبِّرُ الْعَبْدِ لِنَفْسِهِ تَدْبِيرًا. And the abd doesn't make plans for himself. But shouldn't we plan our life in a way? Yes, you should plan your life in a way, get a degree, study, and have a plan, or else you're going to be broke. Yes, that's natural. But to really insist that this has to happen the way you want it to happen, no. You are not the Rabb. You are not Allah. You are not the Lord. You can make plans. You should make plans. You have to make plans. But Allah can change them all. Allah can change. Look at, you know, in COVID-19, what happened? Everything was shut down. Every business had plans, and corporations had plans, and people had plans, and it shut everything down. You cannot, you're not the mudabbir. Allah is the mudabbir. And everyone, we said with COVID-19, most people, they gained 19 pounds. That's why they call it, you know, COVID-19. And the last, وَجُمْلَةُ اشْتِغَالِهِ فِيمَا أَمَرَهُ تَعَالَى بِهِ وَنَهَى عَنْهُ. And their entire intention is focused on the commands of God and his prohibitions. This is what an abd does. An abd goes left and right, looks at, what does my Mawla want? How can I serve my master? I don't want him to be upset with me. I want him to be happy with me. So I look around, you know, the nights of Qadr, you guys were asking what dua to do, what a'mal to do. Because we became a good abd. We became a good servant that night. But instead of worrying about what belongs to what, everything belongs to God. In those plans, I don't insist on them. I make plans, but God can change them. But the third is that at the end, what my duty is, I'm fulfilling the commands of God. And this is the instructions that Ali alayhi salam, the imams would give in battle. That you're not looking at the result of the battle. You're looking at your duty. This is the command of God, so therefore you fight. When Lady Fatima alayhi salam stood up for Imam Ali alayhi salam, was she worried about how many people are going to help her? Or was she more concerned upon her duty? Some say beautifully, Imam Hussein fought against oppression. Lady Fatima alayhi salam fought and was martyred for the truth. She defended the truth, defended walayat. And she was not concerned how many people are going to. She was not concerned about, you know, how many people will help. She was concerned, what is the command of God? And what is the prohibition? So I think that this ubudiyat, if there's not enough time, I'm going to give you guys a break. So if we really focus our lives instead of, you know, all those things we have, and we focus on the duty that we have, on the commands and prohibitions of God. And if we understand that we don't own anything, and we understand that the plans are God's, we realize that when there is hardship, when there is a loss of life, this is God's plan to make us a better abd, to make us a better abd. That is why others like Imam Khomeini, when he lost his son, he said, this is of altaf al-khafiyya. This is of the hidden blessings of God. It's in a way for me to become a better person, closer to God, to leave, you know, the thoughts of this world and the dunya. And this is the final solution in dealing with the loss of others is that, yes, Allah gives you trials and tribulations, but for this person, that now you are better up now. Now you feel you don't have anything, you don't have plans, the plans are all God's. And at the end, now focus on your duty now as an abd. Find what is your obligations that God gives you and what you should stay away from. And this is the purpose of life. Let's recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Let's dim the lights and remember Imam Ali alayhi salam. When you think of funerals, and we're talking about dealing with the loss of beloved and loved ones, what was the first funeral of Ahlul Bayt, public funeral of Ahlul Bayt? When was it? Was it Rasulullah's funeral? Did our Prophet, the seal of messengers, have a public funeral? Or was it Ali alayhi salam that was doing ghusl to the Prophet and burying him, where others were fighting in Saqifa for power, abandoning the Rasulullah? So no public funeral there. Rasulullah did not have a public funeral. 2, who is the next Ma'asum to pass? Lady Fatima Zahra. Did she have a funeral? Or was it in the middle of the night that Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, Salman, other companions, Imam Ali, in the darkness of the night, burying the daughter of Rasulullah? Again, no public funeral. And again, when it comes to Imam Ali alayhi salam, did he have a public funeral? Was he not the ruler of Muslimin? Did he not have a vast empire? Africa, parts of Africa, Asia, Middle East. And you see, they say around Sahar time, something like last night, Sahar time, Imam Hassan, how Madlum Imam Hassan is. He is the eldest son of Imam Ali, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, other sons of Imam Ali, very privately, very secretly taking Ali alayhi salam and burying him so that people would not find. And his place of burial was hidden. He didn't have a funeral again. So 3 of the infallibles. The rest you can yourselves think about. How about the funeral of Imam Hassan? What happened to Imam Hassan? And what about Sayyid al-Shuhada? Did he have a funeral? I want you to think about these things. What are the last sayings of Imam Ali alayhi salam? You know, when the doctor saw Ali alayhi salam, the physician, and he decided that Imam Ali would not survive anymore. He looked, and it was a devastating blow. Very cowardly blow. Imam Ali at that time, in books of hadith and history, begins to write a will. And this is his will after he's stricken on the head. And it's very complete. You can refer that and look at that. And you see the compassion of Imam Ali, the love of Imam Ali. That I advise you to Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, I advise you both to fear Allah. I advise you to both, all my children, family members, advise anyone to have order in their affairs. Maintain good relations amongst yourselves. How caring Ali was. Improvement of mutual differences is better than general prayers and salat, he mentions in this. Prayers and fasting is one category, but improving mutual differences is at a higher category. Then he says, fear God and keep God in view in the matter of the orphans. He is struck on the head, but he's thinking of the orphans. So do not allow them to starve. He's wondering, these orphans that I would give food to every night, who's going to give food to them now? Take care of the orphans. This is his will. Do not allow them to starve. They should not be ruined in your presence. Look at today in our lives, how many children are suffering. And how close am I? I'm criticizing myself. I'm a follower of Ali. How much do I care about all these children that are suffering? And I claim that I am a follower of Ali ibn Abi Talib. What would Ali do if he was here? Fear God and keep in view of your neighbors, he says. The Quran, the prayer, the house of God. And then he says this. We have Imam Ali alayhi salam mentions that what to do with Ibn Muljam. Wait until I die, his death from Ibn Muljam. He says, if I live, I can forgive him if I want. But if I die, then strike him once. This is his will. Strike Ibn Muljam once. Don't strike him twice even. He hit me once, you hit him once. The fairness of Ali. Every time when you read something about Imam Ali, it amazes you. There's nobody like him. He is truly Abul Ajaib, the father of wonders. And he says this to him, and do not dismember the limbs of this man. Do not dismember the limbs of this man, for I have heard the messenger of Allah saying, avoid cutting limbs, even though it may be a rabid dog. Even if it is a dog, do not take limbs and dismember the limbs. Ali ibn Abi Talib. What did they do to Hussein ibn Ali, your son? Rasulullah says, don't cut a dog into pieces. But on the day of Ashura, Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam, he was hit with swords and arrows. When Lady Zainab alayhi salam wants to approach this body and see the body of her brother Imam Hussein alayhi salam, she has to remove arrows and bows and axes and swords from his body, and then come to the final body of Hussein ibn Ali, the dismembered body of Imam Hussein, and say, Anta akhi, are you my brother Hussein? Is this my brother? Is this how he looked like last time I have seen him? Rasulullah, where were you in Ashura and Karbala? You says, do not even cut a dog into pieces. Ali alayhi salam, when they found out that Hussein is your son, they even hit him more. When they found out that Ali Akbar came and says, oh, this is the grandson of Ali ibn Abi Talib, he even has the same name as Ali. His name is Ali. So whatever they had hatred of Ali, they put it upon Ali Akbar of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. وَلَا يَوْمْكَ يَوْمَكَ يَا أَبَا عَبْدِ اللَّهِ. Ya Allah, we ask you, because of the madlumiyat of Imam Ali alayhi salam, the justice of Imam Ali, the compassion of Imam Ali, the kindness of Imam Ali alayhi salam, allow us to be strong in our challenges that life brings us, inshaAllah. Ya Allah, it is the night of the 22nd. Give us, inshallah, the shafa'at of Ali alayhi salam. Give us more love of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Allow our progeny to love Ali ibn Abi Talib. Give us ziyarat of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib in Najaf, inshallah. We miss Najaf. Many of us have not gone to Najaf at all. Many of us have not been in Najaf for a long time. We realize how much we miss Imam Ali alayhi salam. Give us Najaf, inshallah, and ziyarat of Imam Ali. Ya Allah, many people are sick. We believe with the name of Ali alayhi salam, inshallah, they will be cured. Cure them because of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Many of our family members are waiting for us. They cannot do anything in this world anymore. Their hands are tied. Give us reward, inshallah, of these majalis for Imam Ali alayhi salam. Ya Allah, allow us to be a good abd, a good servant of you, Ilahi Ameen. Allow us to be a servant and companion of Imam Zaman and expedite his return with his salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you, everybody. Inshallah, we'll be back here tomorrow for another program. We'll be also doing the A'mal for Liyal Qadr. We'll be posting our schedule again, inshallah, sometimes by the afternoon. But inshallah, plan to be here at Iftar with the Salat as well. Inshallah, we can end in reciting dua for our beloved Imam, Imam al-Hujjah, Ajalullah Ta'ala, Faraj al-Sharif.
Brothers and sisters, let's face Qibla. Let's recite this dua together as we remember our Imam. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إلهي عظم البلاء وبرح الخفاء وانكشف الغطاء وانقطع الرجاء وضاقت الأرض ومنيت السماء وأنت المستعان وإليك المشتقى وعليك المؤول في شدة والرخاء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أولي الأمر الذين فرضت علينا طاعتهم وعرفتنا بذلك منزلتهم، ففرج عنا بحقهم فرجا عاجلا كريبا كلمح البصر أو هو أكرم. يا محمد يا علي يا علي يا محمد يا محمد يا علي يا محمد اكفياني فإنكما كافيان وانصراني فإنكما ناصران. يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان الغوث 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 أدركني 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 الساعة 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 العجل العجل العجل. يا أرحم الراحمين بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Let's do ziyarah together. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله عبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين الزين العابدين. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر بعد علم النبي. السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق الأمين. السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر